Hey guys, welcome on. Hope you're all doing well. I got a very special guest today. I've got Dan Rourke here. If you don't know who Dan Rourke is, he has one of the best channels out there on YouTube. It's called Yankees Avenue. Some of the most original and creative content. And I'm lucky enough to have him on today. So I want to welcome Dan and thanks for coming on, bro.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't seen Dan's stuff, go take a look at his channel. I will link one of his most recent videos in the description down below so you don't miss it. But go check it out, dude, and please support.
Appreciate that.
Subscribe. If you like Yankee content, you got to go check his place out. So anyway, appreciate you coming on. What's been going on? We're not on lockout. Baseball's on lockout, but the content creators are not. So we're trying to keep up with things. So what's going on?
Yeah, dude, it's almost like it's the same, like kind of the same thing. Players on lockout, we're on lockout. I mean, like my thing lately, we were just talking before, like it's so tough to make videos. I'm like scrapping at the bottom of the barrel trying to come up with ideas. Lately, I'm just like, I go to Google, type in Yankees, go to news, and just see what other people are talking about. Like, oh, that's kind of an interesting idea. Maybe I'll make a video. Just recently I did. It's getting bad when I get into the historical side of things. Because just recently, and I never do historical videos. I uploaded I did best Yankee teams of the 2000s, and the other day I did like 5 best Yankees to never win a World Series. So I'm kind of there's really not much news to go off of. So you kind of just got to keep digging, I guess.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Digging from all different places and trying to figure out what's going on and just hoping one day that things are going to happen. Like today, they met, the union and the owners, but nothing much really happened. There was very little traction. Yeah. So when we talked about earlier, there's very likely chance of a delay in spring training. But I think we're both optimistic that the season will not be delayed. I mean, that's what I'm really hoping. But I think the cutoff to me is pitchers and catchers reporting on February 16th. If a deal's not made by then there's a possibility they might delay the season by a little bit, only because it's going to take and some extra time. There's 300 free agents that are still not signed. So they need time to fill out rosters and then kind of have a ramp up via spring training to kind of get the season started. I still think it's possible. And I hope the appetite is there on both sides to kind of get this thing happen. It's basically those two things that are lingering that have not been agreed upon.
There was actually it was an interesting article put out by Jesse Rogers, ESPN today. Actually, let me just pull it up real quick right here because he put out dates. I'm not sure if you saw this or not, but he was basically like, these are the dates to where I think it was like start to worry dates or something like that. Yeah. And for spring training games to begin, the date he says the when to worry date is February 19th for spring training games to begin. As for opening day, when we should start being worried about opening day being in jeopardy, March 3rd. So, that's kind of close. And it hit me today, like I was looking at my calendar. I think it was just the fact that it was February 1st. And I was just like, man, like it's February. Like this is kind of the time where like you start to feel like pitchers and catchers are reporting. And just like, just kind of get that, not spring fever yet at all. Because, we're obviously, a month or two away from that. But just like you start to get that, like you get that itch. I tweeted out the other day. I was like, I'm starting to get that itch for baseball. I'm like, man, I'm coming to terms with if there is going to be a delay for the regular season, maybe it'll be like 2 weeks, like maybe, I think in 95, they had a 144 game season, I believe. That to me would be okay. If that's ultimately, like if you told me right now, like give me a glass ball or something for me to look into, that's what's going to happen out of this. I think ultimately that would be okay. But like, man, God forbid we get to like, if it's like May and we still don't have an opening date, that's where like, or like even late April would be tough. And not just for like, I'm the diehard fan. So like, I'm going to be there regardless, you know what I'm saying? But like for the sport overall, which both me and you care about, talk about being content creators and how things are linked, like, for us as a business, like we need MLB to get MLB and, the players, but mostly the owners to get their stuff together, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. Otherwise, we're going to have to start doing collaborations on movies. And
exactly, yo. Yeah.
Orange juices in America and all this other stuff, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, and the way I look at it too is the Yankees could be at a potential advantage. And the reason why I say that, and I'll get into that a little bit more, is they have guys to me that are starters that could be long relief guys. Because at the end of the day, a delay in spring training to me is going to affect pitchers more because they have to build up their pitch count. Whereas hitters is going to be a little bit of a different situation in terms of getting timing and stuff like that. So the less time the pitchers have to build up their pitch count, I think the more the Yankees are going to specifically need guys like Nestor Cortez and Luis Severino and guys like Michael King, who can be 3-4 inning guys and let the pitchers, the starters, build up in innings while these guys are kind of blunting, clearing the gap between them and the short relief guys. So we're not underusing these guys and overusing these guys. So that's just the way I look at it. And the Yankees could potentially have an advantage because they have so many guys that could be long relievers. So
for sure. And the Yankees pitching, is honestly, and that was one of the things that actually excited me a lot going into the offseason, that the Yankees pitching is pretty well set up. Now, I know we'll kind of get into this, like the Yankees offseason, what I want them to do, but I'm very set on the Yankees should get one more starter. And here's why. One, for what you just mentioned, I mean, like, there's a good chance they're going with a 6-man rotation anyways. But the way I see it is this. I consider right now, well, the rotation just laid out is probably what? Cole, Severino, Monty, Tyone when he's healthy, and then Nestor right now, right? So the way I see it is this. Nestor, I'm not sure if he's going to be as good as he was last year, but I am actually pretty confident that he's a solid pitcher, although I don't want to necessarily rely on him. So what I think they should do is this. Get a number 3 starter, and there's 2 benefits of that. One, hopefully that number 3 starter, I assume, is pretty good. 2, then that would push Jordan Montgomery back to being your number 4 starter, which Jordan Montgomery is very underrated amongst most people, to be honest. He was actually, I'm pretty sure if you break down the numbers, a top 15, maybe it was top 20 performance-wise starter in the American League last year. So all of a sudden, he becomes your number 4 starter, which that would be dope. And 3, with Nestor, all of a sudden you go from Nestor being your number 5 guy to him being a swingman. And we've seen Nestor, he can do both. He can pitch out of the bullpen, give you long relief. And obviously we saw a lot last year. He can pitch well as a starter too. So, I mean, I think their pitching is very well set up. But if you just get one more starter, just a guy like Carlos Rodon, I think would be maybe a good option. Or anybody that's, you don't have to go out and get an ace. You don't have to, just somebody that can give you a solid 5-6 innings, like a quality start, honestly. That's good enough to be my number 3 starter. And then Montgomery goes to your number 4. I think it's a good domino effect.
Yeah, and it's like you said, too. I like pushing guys down. If you can get a Carlos Rodon, then he can slip in as a number 2. And then so you have Taillon or Severino at the 3, and then Nestor.
Yeah,
Montgomery.
exactly.
You have a righty-lefty alternate thing going on.
Yeah.
It adds to the pitching stable. And I think the long relief guys, because Rodon, if we can get 150 innings out of him, I'd be happy. Like, even if you get 30 starts at 5 innings per, to kind of keep it healthy and then transition over to the long relief guys, because so many times last year and even the year before, the Yankees went into games and used 7 or 8 pitchers. And then these guys are not available for a couple of days, especially on a day we have a doubleheader. They're not available in game 2, and then you have nobody, and then they're calling up random guys, and then it kind of throws things off, which I think is why I'm a staunch believer of having at least 3 guys who can be swing guys, like a Michael King, like Nestor. And with Nestor, I liked him last year. I think he just gassed out in the second half of the season. He wasn't ready. Now, I think building up his endurance a little bit more would help him this year. And he's got 4 years of control left. He's only 26. He's not a free agent until 2026. So if they do it right with him, I think he'd be a mainstay in a rotation, and I like him. So, and he's on the cheap, as is Montgomery.
Yeah.
Other guys. So you have these affordable guys. And if a Cole, Rodon would be lovely. I mean, and I'm a believer of the Yankees trying to get 2, but at least I think they're going to wind up with 1. So
one starter, or
1 starter. So I try to get 2 if we can, because there's always an issue in the rotation. There's injuries. So to have another guy that you can rely on, but then we have Luis Hill too. So I'm
really excited about him. He's somebody, man. Like, I actually, speaking of what I did in the past, I did a bold prediction like a month ago. Which is, putting bold in front of him. That's just a way to make any prediction you want. But I had one of my things with him was having Heel. He's a contender for Rookie of the Year, in my opinion. Honestly, I'm not sure who like the number 1 guys. It's probably Adley Rutschman, the catcher from the Orioles or whatever. But like, as like a low vote candidate like Luis Heel, like, I mean, I don't got to go into how good he looked last year, but if he improves his control a little bit, he's really probably 1 injury in the starting rotation away from being like a legitimate contender for the Rookie of the Year award. That's me saying that right now. It could blow up in my face. He could have a 60 ERA this year, but like, I don't know. Really excited for Heel. He's a man.
Well, at some point too, and you're absolutely right, the Yankees have to give these young kids a legitimate shot. Yeah. Like, putting them up for a month and then sending them down, that's not really a shot, in my opinion. If you give him half a year or the year to see how he does, let him get used to the major leagues. Because I don't want to have the Jobber Chamberlain thing going on again, where the relievers starting. He was all over the place, and just put him in, try him on his, let him compete for the number 5, see how he does. You have Luis Medina there as well. You have some of these up-and-coming guys, Ken Walchuk, some of these other pitchers. So if that happens, that happens. But I agree with you, man. I mean, I would try to get Luis Castillo in a trade if possible. Because he's.
I couldn't agree. I could not agree more, man. I really couldn't. I've been saying that for a good while now. Like last year, this would never happen now. Cincinnati would never do it, but maybe they wouldn't have last year either. But I wanted to do Gleyber Torres for Castillo straight up or something right around those lines. And man, like Castillo, like. And yeah, I remember he got off to like a really bad start. Like I think April wasn't good or something like that. But the rest of the year, I mean, I'm pretty sure from May on or like June on, he was one of the best pitchers in the National League. So, bro, I would love Luis Castillo. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I mean,
That would be like, because that's where almost like, all right, we're not talking like a number 3. We're not even talking number 2. It's almost like a 1A to Cole in a way.
exactly.
Honestly, yeah.
Exactly. And
So.
to me, I want to take advantage of Cole's prime years, Judge's prime years, Stanton's prime years. So we got to support him with a couple of frontline guys in return. You know, this is not Cole Scherzer, Cole Verlander, but Cole Castillo I'd be perfectly happy with. Cole Castillo Rodon I'd be even happier with. But at the end of the day, you know, they might have – well, it depends on what they do. They might have to move a Torres. And I know they turned down a Torres for Castillo trade last year. The Yankees did.
They did?
Yeah, Cashman turned it down.
Really?
Swap.
I didn't even know that was on the table.
Gotta be killing me, man. Yeah.
Man, I would have done that.
I would have done it like that.
I would have done that, you know, and that's not even me being a Monday morning quarterback. I would have done that. And it's more so from like, I remember at the time, it was nothing against Glaber. You know, I truly thought Glaber was going to bounce back after 2020. And I still think he's going to bounce back after last year, but it was more so in terms of like need, you know, also the fact, I think Castillo, we probably don't know off the top of our heaads, but he was under control at least for a couple years at the time.
He's not a free.
2 more after. 2 more with this coming year.
Yeah, he's got 2022 and 2023 under control.
Yeah. So that's like my whole point was like, yeah, just having an elite pitcher that even if he, you know, take a slight step back in Yankee Stadium, I'm not sure what his fly ball deal is, but like just to have that good of an arm under control for two seasons, 3 at the time when I said it last year, I'm right there with you, bro. I like Castillo. That would be awesome to get Castillo. Imagine, and don't sleep on Severino either. I mean, with him, it's really health for him. You know, like I feel like something people do that's really common is like when you're predicting somebody that's like unpredictable, you kind of take like, you don't think he's going to be amazing. You don't think he's going to be awful. You kind of think somewhere in the middle. So like I've seen a lot of people guess like, oh, I'm sure Severino, he won't be like a 2.9 ERA guy like he was. He'll probably be more like a 3.9 or a 4. To me, I do think it's really going to be either Severino either has like a 6 ERA and tears his UCL or something like that again, or he's going to be like 30 starts, 2.9 ERA, Severino. Like I think if he's healthy, like if Severino is healthy, I will be relying on Luis Severino as a legitimate number 2 starter. I'll put it that way.
Hell yeah. I mean, honestly, like the one reason I feel like starting him in long relief and then kind of phasing him into starting rotation is because we're in his last year of his 4-year contract. So preserving him and keeping him healthy, I think, is of utmost importance. And personally, I would rather take him, 3 to 4 innings and just getting darts out of him, absolute darts, right? And then building him back up instead of throwing him to the wolves right away and him potentially getting hurt. Because he's got like you said, he's got a dominant arm if he's healthy, man. Mm-hmm. So I would start him and let him just gradually build up his innings over.
I agree with you 100%. But what I would honestly do is I would still start him. I'll take 4 innings at a Severino, honestly. Like almost if you want to do something like that, which I think is a pretty good idea, just kind of treat him as like an opener for like the month of April or something like that. Which I'm sure. I mean, if they don't do that, they'll be dumb, honestly. Because I imagine like Sevy's probably. 150 innings you think? What did Taillon throw this year? Probably like 150. I feel like it's usually what they do after Tommy John. Wow. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to have to do something or like a Phantom IL stint at some point.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I think Michael King is so important. You could do 4 with Severino and then go to King for 4. Yeah. And you have an inning or 2 left. Instead of going Severino, maybe 3 or 4, and then using a pitcher, like 5 or 6 more pitchers. And I tend to do that a little too often for my preference, but – this 3 guys in long relief would be perfect because you can go Severino Cortez or Cortez King or King and Severino. Have any way you want, and then do it and kind of give them enough innings so they still throwing 100+ and staying healthy. Hopefully,
I also wouldn't be surprised. Speaking of, Deivi Garcia had a horrible year in AAA last year. I would not be surprised if at this point, like he's not even close to a top 10 prospect for the Yankees anymore. Like maybe they just kind of cut it loose now and just be like, all right, pitch out of the bullpen. Like he was already for a while, even when he was pitching well as a starter, he was projected to be more so a reliever, So like he's somebody, like an under the radar candidate that could pitch really well out of the bullpen. And one more thing on the Yankee rotation, like as a whole, something that one of the reasons I was really excited about is that there's a lot less like, or at least it feels like there's a lot less like unsure things than last year. At least this year it's just Severino. I'm pretty sure if I'm remembering correctly. Like as for like pitchers coming off Tommy John, like, last year we had Taillon and we had like Kluber going into it. You just kind of felt like something was going to go wrong. Outside of that, like even if the Yankees don't go and get like outside of Severino, even if the Yankees don't go and get another starter, like right now, I mean, like, it's pretty like you can kind of, like, what you're getting out of Cole. You kind of know what you're getting out of Montgomery. Taillon, I figure he's going to be, not the same pitcher he was when he was like July pitcher of the month, but he's proven he can pitch well in the American League East. So I feel like you kind of know what you're getting out of guys this year for the most part. The only one, maybe not Nestor, like we were talking, but still, like we still feel pretty good about him. There's no reason not to feel good about Nestor. And I feel like the Yankee rotation as a whole,
Yeah, I agree. And they have enough depth. I mean, if they can get one or two, great. If they don't, they don't.
And I want them to get one more. I'm not saying right now they're good. I'm saying they're well set up to where they just got to get one more. They don't got to go out and like create a bullpen. Really, their bullpen is pretty much ready to go. And Clay Holmes is a big part of that. I'm kind of throwing hot takes out left and right here, I feel like, but like, I don't even think this is a hot take. I think Clay Holmes, if I was a betting man, like I would put money on him being a top 3 reliever in the American League this year.
Yep.
So like, and that's the thing with the bullpen. I feel like the Yankees have finally, hopefully realized, and kind of teams overall, like it makes me nauseous the idea that we're paying Aroldis Chapman, $18 million a year, Zach Britton, $15 million a year. And it's not to say, if anybody's worth it, it's those guys, at least when they got the contracts, but no reliever is worth that much money, especially when you can, instead of paying Aroldis Chapman $18 million a year and Zach Britton $15 million a year, or Liam Hendricks, if you're the White Sox, whoever, Kenley Jansen, when you can get Jonathan Loaisiga, it's all failed starters. The same thing's going to happen with Mike King. Mike King looked really good at the bullpen at times last year. Chad Green. I mean, like, spend money on the bullpen, sure, but never, like, I just can't imagine putting that much money towards a reliever like Chapman and Britton ever again.
The only reliever I ever felt that was worth that much money was Mariano Rivera.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No,
him, you can give, blank check.
So, whatever. Yeah. But, like, yeah, you're right, man. I mean, Steven Riding's his kid, too. And
yes.
And they have other dart-throwing kids who are and they got a couple guys this offseason on minor league deals, and maybe one of them will work out too. So they have enough depth on the short relief end, like to be
for sure.
They have a good bridge with the long relief guys and the starters. So, and again, personally, my personal preference would be a Castillo over Rodon only because he's durable. And like last year, Taillon and Kluber hadn't pitched in almost 2 years. They made me nervous.
Me too. No, I was exactly with you, 100%.
Yeah, a lot of people think Rodon's arm is about to fall off any day now. So
I've heard that too. Did something happen that I don't know? I'm much more of like a Yankees fan than I am like MLB as a whole. Like I don't know everything. Did something happen with his last start? Did he get hurt? Or like
it tends to break down when he gets above 150 innings. But some people are saying it might be UCL. They think he's a step away from Tommy John. Now I don't know, but he's got a pretty efficient wind up and delivery. And he's a power arm on the lefty side. So I would have loved Robbie Ray, but that didn't happen. But Rodon, to me, is not that far different from Robbie Ray, and he's going to cost a lot less.
I'm kind of glad Robbie Ray. I don't know. He doesn't pass my sniff test, and there's not much to really back that up. But, like, at least when it comes to being an ace, like, I don't see – who did he sign with? The Mariners, right? He signed with the Mariners? I believe. Yeah, like, I think he'll be a solid pitcher for them, but that's it. I don't see him, like, repeating the year he had this past year. I don't know. To me, like I might be biased because the last time I saw him, the Yankees, basically he basically ended the Blue Jays playoff chances that game when Judge homered twice and then Rizzo Glade. That was an awesome game, by the way. But yeah, so him I'm not all that worried about. Yeah, I forgot what we were talking about, but yeah.
Castillo's my guy, man. So I really hope that they get him.
The problem with Castillo is, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It's the difference between money versus like if Castillo was a free agent, like all right, I'd give him over $100 million easily, probably over 150. But with Castillo, it's not that. It's, you're going to have to give up
a ton,
prospects in a trade, whereas Rodon, you just get him via free agency. And if I'm all for Castillo, but the reason I haven't been thinking of him too much is just, I guess, because like I just have it in my head that the Yankees are going to make a trade with Oakland, and whatever trade they make, whether it's for Olson or Chapman or, Frankie Montas or Sean Manaea or, a package of those, it's going to cost a lot. So my offseason vision, I guess just the way I've seen it in my head, is the Yankees are going to make a trade with Oakland, and whatever prospects they're sending for the offseason will be in that Oakland trade. And I think, contrary to, I know Max Goodman put out a report today that the Yankees aren't willing to trade Volpe or Peraza. Volpe, I believe. I think in Oakland, you're going to have to probably put Peraza in that deal if you want to get Matt Olson and like Frankie Montas. Whoever it is, though, it's going to be a high prospect capital trade. So I feel like whatever moves outside of the Oakland trade will be a free agency. But that's all in my head. Like, I'm just assuming they're going to make a trade with Oakland. I don't know why. I feel like it's just, to me, a foregone conclusion for some reason.
I do too. That's the first segment I want to talk about. It's called the 3-on-3. So what they should do versus what we think they'll actually do in contrast. So I'm with you. I
Yeah.
didn't think you should make a trade. And I think the Yankees will likely make a trade with Oakland. And
Mm.
Matt Olson and either Bassett or Manea or Montez.
Bassett, I'd love Bassett too.
And the fact is, they're going to have to give up Peraza. But what's the point of being 8 deep in shortstop prospects? You're not going to move them for a superstar, right?
Yeah.
You got Oswaldo Cabrera. And the fact is, too, and I keep saying this in a lot of my videos, the Yankees were 26 out of 30 last year in run production. Even with huge years from Judge and Stanton, they need at least 2 impact bats. Olson's one of them. I don't see – it's got to be Olson and Correa, in my opinion, this offseason. The 2 biggest impact bats, if you want to change everything, those are the 2 you have to get.
Absolutely. I agree. Now, I'm loose when it comes to I'm Correa or Story. I absolutely agree Correa is better than Story, but if they're going to go long term with one of them, Correa 100%. With Story, and I'm not sure he would do this. I'm not sure if he's looking for, a prove it deal or if he wants to just, max value, but if they could get Story on one of those, short term high AAV deals, I'd even be willing to go like I doubt you'd be able to get Story on 2 years, but if you can get Story for 2 years, I would give him $35 million a year. And then that way, that easily bridges the gap. Like, that makes sense then if you want to bridge the gap to Volpe. Because you can't start one of them this year. You really can't. I know they say Peraza's defense is major league ready, but like it's the same deal with, Anderson Simmons, why they shouldn't sign him. Like, defense is great and all, and it's obviously a big part of the position in the game overall, but like you can't, like, especially after last year, like the stat you just mentioned, like that would make our offense that was already bad worse by getting Anderson Simmons or by having Peraza start, this year. I think they should trade Peraza. And then if you're going to get Story, sign him for short term. And you could always, even if it's going to be a little longer, you can move him over to third or move him second or move Volpe to third or second, something like that.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The one reason I like Volpe so much is he has played second, he has played third. Story's versatile too. So is even Oswaldo Cabrera, one of their other heralded shortstop. They play so does Peraza. They all play multiple positions. I'm trading Peraza because of all these guys we have. I think it's going to happen anyway. And Story, I'd be all over a 2-year deal for Story. All over it.
I'd love it.
And then you have Volpe at second, whatever it is. And Volpe gives you the flexibility to move a Torres if you need to move Torres or Gio. So, at the end of the day, I mean, I'm not married to Correa. I mean, he's obviously the sexy name, but I'm Story too and kind of transitioning into something else. Because at the end of the day, too, if we can get Olson and Montez, and if there's any way they can add Sean Murphy to the deal, their catcher, I mean, that's going to cost Dominguez. And I've said this, there's no way they're going to get all 3 of those guys without Dominguez, unfortunately. There's no way.
I'm willing Dominguez, and this is a recent thought of mine. Really, honestly, ever since the emergence of Volpe, I'm recency biased as hell. But Jason Dominguez is on the table for me. Like, in a deal that's worth it. Like, he's not untouchable anymore. Volpe is probably about as untouchable as a prospect as I've ever felt. I guess Glaber at the time I probably was really high on too. But yeah, no, like Dominguez is no longer untouchable for me.
There are pretty much 2 deals that I would make with Dominguez involved. That being one with the Olson, but it'd have to be Sean Murphy in there. I don't really see Chapman as much of a need as Olson in terms of Oakland, and the only other player I would pick for would be Brian Reynolds. Brian Reynolds, to me, is the finished product of what we want Dominguez to be. He's already there.
Bro, this is literally
so
literally that's my exact thought.
Yeah.
Exact thought.
There's no guarantee Dominguez is going to be Reynolds, but there is guarantee Reynolds is already Reynolds.
Reynolds is Reynolds, dude, 100%. And it's not like we're coming off a year where there were juice balls. No, the balls were deflated. This is what Reynolds is going to be or already is. And yeah, no, dude, I'm totally with you. Like with Dominguez, it's just like you said. Like if Dominguez turns out to ever have a year like Reynolds had this past year in 2021, that'd be such a W. Like I know Dominguez, like, the scouting grades are off the charts, and he very well could end up being like a great player, but like that doesn't mean he's going to be like, people always compare him to like Mickey Mantle all the time, right? But it's like he's not going to be Mickey Mantle. Like, and if he's half of what Mickey Mantle is, that would be really good. Like, so if you could get for Dominguez, what you hope Dominguez turns out to be, like, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah. And then you have your starting center fielder. Could you imagine adding him and then getting an Olson in between Stanton and Judge? Like an Olson and Brian Reynolds. Forget it. I don't care who plays shortstop. I don't care. Story, great if it's Oswald. I don't care at that point because if you have Brian Reynolds and Olson, you've changed the lineup dynamic completely.
If they were to do that, because I align with what you said, they need to add 2 impact bats. So I mean, if they were to do that and say,
it costs a lot,
I don't know, because I'm wondering, would I rather, if they got a center fielder and a first baseman, and if they got Reynolds and they got Olson, but then they got like Simmons and had Peraza start, I don't know if that would be a better option to me than say getting impact bat at short with either Story or Correa, get Olson, and then I honestly rather just have Aaron Hicks in center field then, because in these two scenarios, it's kind of it's Hicks versus Simmons / Peraza, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
In terms of like the alternatives of like which offense is worse, and I mean with Hicks, if he's healthy, like I mean he at least should walk and get a high OBP. I mean I'm not sure if the power is going to be there really anymore, but that's where I feel like I kind of have given up on is center field. I feel like Aaron Hicks will be the center fielder come opening day. I just that's something I know Cashman. And it surprised me when he said it too. When Cashman said he kind of listed out the team's offseason needs, that actually kind of surprised me because like once you say it, you kind of have to do it. I'm pretty sure he mentioned center field in there, but like I don't really see where he's going to go with that because I mean unless you do go out and get Brian Reynolds, there's really who else is there? I mean, Seiya Suzuki, he doesn't play center. I don't believe he's a corner outfielder. I mean, they could always put Gallo or Judge in there in center, but I'm not sure they want to do that every day. So.
Yeah, and I don't know. Those are big guys. That worries me in Judge and center. They can rotate these guys too, but like.
Yeah.
Suzuki, I just have a feeling he's going to go to Boston. He's just going to feast on that wall in Fenway.
Suzuki?
It's my gut telling me. But if he came to the Yankees, this is where Brian Cashman comes in and pulls a rabbit out of his hat. Because he always does it. When you think he's going to do nothing, he does some ridiculous trade that nobody was thinking of. And you're like, what the hell just happened, right?
Yeah.
Or when you think he's going to do a lot, he does nothing. So, but he never shows his cards. You never know what Cashman's going to do. So I hope this is even ridiculously quiet this offseason, the Yankees. So not hearing anything. So I have a feeling he's going to strike in areas where, like, I'm prepared to be an equal balance of disappointed and pleasantly surprised at the same time with some of the moves. Right?
Yeah. Listen, dude, I'll be very disappointed if they don't spend a lot. And I honestly, like, there's not a doubt in my mind that they will. Like, and the reason for that being is the Yankees, what they have been doing this whole time, this is going to be the second time that they've done it, or maybe third time in a row they've done it now. They reset the tax every 3 years, and then they spend the next 2. Now that they've reset the tax, and that's why I've kind of always been fine with them resetting the tax this past year. And besides how the end of the year ended up working out, I mean, like, Brian Cashman really did have a good trade deadline. The way he was able to get Joey Gallo, Anthony Rizzo, picking up Clay Holmes, even though it was like 2 weeks before, and being able to do that without adding any payroll when, the tax, it goes beyond, I don't know, you know this, but for people at home, like, it goes on beyond just, financials. Like there's like draft picks or whatever involved, or just there's more than just the money aspect to it. But now that that tax has been reset, the Yankees can spend as much, as Hal Steinbrenner is really willing to pay without there being any other consequences besides just money. So with that, I mean, it would be like embarrassing on Cashman and the Yankees if they didn't spend this year, because that's kind of what they've been, implying they were going to do by resetting the tax. So
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. I did a video on their payroll projections for the next 5 years, and their payroll goes down by $100 million plus over the next 5 years. So if they're going to spend any time, it's now. This is the most robust free agent class, and they have money coming off the books. So time to spend is now, because the payroll is going to keep going out. And at some point when the threshold goes up, they'll be in a good position. They'll likely be under it by default or close to it, and it won't be as difficult to reset.
I think that's another thing they're banking on is the threshold going up. I mean, that's something I think we're getting into, but it has to go up, I believe. And also they have to put like a floor in.
Benefits teams like the Yankees because it's the less penalty they have to pay as it goes up. So. Oh
yeah, and also it stops teams like, I mean, everybody celebrates the Rays all the time like they're good for baseball. I think they're freaking horrible for baseball. I mean, to me it's a shame that they're such great minds, probably the smartest organization in baseball. But what is their payroll every year? $30 million. And they're, making World Series appearances. They're winning divisions. Imagine what they could do if they actually, and if I was a fan, I'm pissed about this as a Yankees fan, as a baseball fan. If I was a Tampa Bay Rays fan, I would be fuming at the Tampa Bay Rays. Like, and not even just not signing people, but getting rid of people. And it's not just them. It's the Orioles, and the way what the Orioles are doing right now is ridiculous with the 400 lost seasons in a row. We're not counting 2020. It's embarrassing. And with the way the Astros and the Cubs came to success, like just number one draft picks year after year, I think they really got to make it so you got to penalize teams that are losing on purpose. Like you can't benefit from being bad. So one, put a floor in. I'm not sure what the number is. I'm not smart enough to come up with it, but you got to put a certain amount, a floor that they have to spend at least this much. And you also, I think they have to stop it from, if you are like the worst team in baseball this year, you get the number 1 pick next year. But if you're the worst team in baseball the year after, or just top 5 worst, you can't have a top 5 pick the next year. Like, I feel like you shouldn't be able to have back-to-back number 1 picks. Does that make sense? And my whole point is here, you got to stop it so like teams have incentive to be bad for multiple years in a row.
You can't benefit from this intentional tanking every
year. Yeah.
It's just, it's not fair to the teams. Like, I was talking to Derek about this. He mentioned this one point where the first team that misses the playoffs should be get one of those high picks instead of these teams that, because it brings me to something else I'm going to bring up in a little bit when we talk about like things we like to change in the CBA. Because it all kind of boils down to what teams do, like the Tampa Bay Rays and Orioles and stuff like that. And that's how, I mean, a lot of these teams get good. You get 5 years of number 1 draft picks in a row, and it turns into Cedric Mullins, it turns into David Price with the Rays. And
it works, and that's the problem. Like, it works, and it shouldn't be able to be that way.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to change is something that is relative to that. But I just want to finish what I think the Yankees should do versus what I think they'll actually.
Yeah, sorry, I always do this. I jump all over the place, bro. I got ADHD like crazy.
This is good because all the things I want to talk about, you're talking about. So this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. But like, I think they should get a Castillo or Rodon, an Oakland trade of some capacity. The bigger, the better. In all honesty. Olson has to be the offensive piece that comes back.
Yeah, I'd say Olson and a pitcher.
I love Olson and Montez. It's going to cost a lot, but it is what it is. You're getting Olson. You know you're going to have to pay a lot. It's just the same thing. Like, and I'll get to Aaron Judge, but if somebody wants to trade for Judge, they're going to have to pay a ransom too. That's just how it works because he's Olson's a superstar.
Got to give some to get some.
Yeah, exactly. And the last thing to me would be solidifying, just deciding what to do at shortstop. Now, and we kind of talked about that. What I think the Yankees will do, and this brings me back to the, maybe being excited and disappointed. I think they're going to wind up with a stopgap of some capacity. I would not be disappointed with Trevor Story, though, because I like Trevor Story. I actually have him.
Story's a stopgap? Yeah, no, I love that.
It's a legitimate stopgap. I actually have him. I did my predictions video, and I predicted Story to the Yankees a couple months ago. So I still stick with that. But I have a feeling they're going to wind up trading for like a mid-tier starter. Something like a 4 or something like that, or maybe signing Matthew Boyd out of the Tigers.
Oh, yeah. That has Yankees written all over it.
Exactly. So that's going to give me agita. It's going to give me ulcers.
Yeah.
And then I have a feeling they're going to bring back Anthony Rizzo. Now, would I be disappointed with Rizzo? No. But I'd be disappointed with Rizzo if they could have gotten Olson. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I remember right when the season ended, I started tweeting out my immediate first week of the offseason thoughts. And re-sign Anthony Rizzo was at the top of the list. Like, I remember thinking, like, all right, we clearly need to change something up in the culture, but I don't think Anthony Rizzo is one of them. I think, if anything, that's kind of what the clubhouse needs more.
Yeah.
But I once, like, I started thinking about Olson more, I was like, I would 100% take Olson over Rizzo. But, like, if Oakland's asking an arm and a leg, which I think the Yankees will easily be able to get Olson, so I don't really think there's much excuse not to. But if for some reason they don't, I'd be cool with Rizzo coming back. I would like Rizzo coming back. Just right now, recently, Olson definitely has taken over in my head, or a priority.
My head too, and I think the longer this lockout goes, the more anxious the A's are going to want to be to get rid of payroll. So it may be to the Yankees' advantage. They may be able to get a Sean Murphy somehow included in that trade, and then the Yankees will have their catcher for the next bunch of years because there's no answer behind Gary Sanchez right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, with Gary, like, obviously he's so frustrating, and like, every year I hold out hope, like, this is gonna be Gary's year. But like, I guess the reason I'm kind of like I'm okay with Gary right now is just because I don't really see many other options. I mean, Sean Murphy, that would be great if they there was some guy early in the offseason, I forget, he signed with somebody else. I forget who it was, but I remember I wanted him. Was it Tucker Barnhart or somebody? Or no, it was who I really wanted. Jacob Stallings, the Pittsburgh catcher. He went to Miami. Yeah. So once that happened, and like, there really wasn't too many people available. It was like, all right, you know what? We can stick with Gary another year. I mean, at worst, not really at worst, but like, at least his offense is usually decent. So, I mean, if he can just like be competent behind the plate, which I know he said this for years, and if he's competent behind the plate and has flashes of, say, 2017 and even at times in 2021. I mean, there was a third of the season where he was kind of close to being 2017 Gary Sanchez. If we ever saw that over like a full season, then like I feel like that would be good enough, But I understand like you're tired of holding out hope for it. And I kind of am too. There's not too many other options for me.
I'd be happier with consistency from him. And just the red flag for me is that there were a couple of pitchers on the team who didn't want to throw to him. So that kind of worries me.
Yeah.
Now
that's the biggest thing, honestly. I feel like if you're a Gary like hater, that's your number one piece of ammo, and I can't argue with that. Like if a pitcher doesn't want to throw you, like that's your number one job. So
yeah, that's tough. So like the two guys that aside from Sean Murphy, but he's got 4 years of control left, so that's going to be really hard for the A's to move. So I get that, but I have a prospect, Tyler Soderstrom, who's blocked by him, who's a top catching prospect, and the Royals have a top prospect, MJ Melendez. These guys are both top 30 MLB prospects. And they're blocked by Salvador Perez, blocked by Sean Murphy. The Yankees, I would, if I was Cashman, I would call both teams and try to maybe get one of those guys over here. It would cost a bit, but you have tons of pre-arb and arb. You have a lot of young catching in the pipeline. And I've said this too, like with the Yankees drafting, I would draft a catcher in the first 5 rounds every year for like the next 5 to 7 years. Just in the pipeline like the Yankees do in shortstop and in the outfield, these prospects, because some of the most desirable assets for trades are catchers.
Yeah.
You don't have
That's why, hey, I mean, we got Wells, which I mean, he's in single A, but he's somebody that's highly talked about in trade talks. He could get somebody back too. But what you just said right there, honestly, makes me think like what do you say? Oakland and
Tyler Soderstrom and MJ Melendez from Kansas City.
So when I hear that, that makes me think more likely that there's a good chance that Murphy could be traded or that Sal Perez might be traded. So I mean, yeah, no, I mean, I think if the Yankees, I think Cashman said this, if they see an opportunity to upgrade a catcher, I think they will. But like, it's kind of the same with how I feel about Aaron Hicks. I can see it now. Gary Sanchez is going to be in the opening day lineup, or maybe not with Higgy, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think Sanchez is going to be the opening day catcher, unless Cashman pulls some Carson Kelly trade with Ketel Marte or something with Arizona. So I don't see it going anywhere. So
yeah.
And
I wanted Marte for a good while too, actually. But the only problem with him is that like there's really nowhere he would play. I mean, he can play center, Marte, but like his defense is so bad in center.
Yeah, you'd have to.
Doesn't play short, so he's a good bat though.
He is a good bat. I mean, I could see Torres being moved in a trade, and you can put him at second and make DJ the super utility or something like that. But like,
if
I don't know.
Gleyber, I guess actually no, this wouldn't happen because I mean they're kind of the same years of control. But like, if you could put Gleyber in a deal for Marte, obviously surrounded by some other stuff, I'd be all for that. I don't think they're going to trade Gleyber. I
don't think so.
I think it's all because of like his values at a lowest, and I feel like they almost want to kind of like prove it to other people with Gary too. Like I almost feel like they want to like if Gary has one last good year, and this year is so huge on numerous levels, not just for Gary, but just like this is the last year control-wise of the baby Bombers. So like if you want to make something this core, this is the year. And it's kind of almost just like if I'm the Yankees, like outside of me like wanting to get another catcher, like part of me would kind of like want to see Gary prove it and be like, were we right or not?
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like
and
hey, and to give Gary credit, I mean, like last year, if you break down his season, he had the good first 2 games and then struggled after that for like a couple weeks. And he basically lost half his job to Higashioka. And then starting in May, he started to hit again. Remember, he had that real hot stretch from like May to like June or like late June. And he was one of the better offensive catchers of the American League. Remember, there was all-star talk surrounding Gary Sanchez, legitimate all-star talk, and he honestly probably deserved it. He had an OPS over 800. And then, he did struggle like a week or 2, I'm pretty sure, beforehand, but he ended up getting COVID, remember? And then he lost like 10 or so pounds. So, like, if I'm on the side of trying to give Gary an excuse, which I kind of am, Gary's just like, I have a soft spot for Gary. I ain't going to lie. Like, that kind of is something to me where I can look at that like, okay, that's why he was bad. Maybe he'll be better this year. It's a trap. I know. It's like Gary's a drug to me. It really is. Like, I'm just like, I'm always kind of like, I don't know.
He doesn't make excuses.
He doesn't. And one thing I just want to say about Gary, people got to drop the narrative that he does not work hard. Everybody who's ever spoken about Gary Sanchez says he's the hardest worker in the room. And everybody thinks he's out of shape. It's because he wears a baggy uniform. Anytime someone wears a baggy jersey, it makes him look, a little out of shape. And he's a catcher. And like he had the one incident in Tampa Bay really screwed. Remember a couple of years back where like, I don't even remember. I know he got hurt in the play. I'm not sure if that's why, but he like kind of dogged it or whatever to first base, and that's really where. So I mean, he's had to hit some rough moments, but like for people to say Gary Sanchez is lazy, like I don't know. That's just I don't think anything Gary. I don't think any of his struggles is to do with laziness. I truly think he's somewhat like almost like a lost puppy dog sometimes. Like I feel like that one cat. Remember that play at home plate with the Mets where like It was like a good throw home, could have tagged him out, but he just didn't tag him or whatever it was. Like, I feel like sometimes he just has like these brain farts. Like, I feel like that's the problem is with Gary Sanchez. Like, I don't think it's anything to do with like a mental attitude.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, I don't think it's attitude or laziness. I think mental lapses. I guess he's
Yeah, which is bad. That's not good. I'm not like that's not defending him, but
he hits him at like the worst time, unfortunately. But
yeah,
you know, it is what it is. But stats wise, offensively, he's up there with some of the best catchers. So I mean, it's just his talent
yeah,
is through the roof. I just wish he would put together a consistent stretch. And
yeah,
because all in all, he has been good for the Yankees in these years, and he had some big hits, man. And
yeah.
and I would love to put like a somebody else like a Wilson Contreras glove in Gary Sanchez's body, something like that, so he can be a little bit more complete.
Yeah, no, I hear you, bro. I totally hear you.
To me, is no more than a backup anyway. So that's why I start building a pipeline behind Sanchez. At some point, they're going to wind up moving on from him. I don't know when, but
I think this will probably be if I had a bet, probably his last year.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they adopted DH in the National League and that's confirmed. Like, there's a chance they might move him.
Oh yeah,
They might move Voit. Like
I think Voigt's gone. I really do.
Colorado or something like that with 50 bombs. Like it's just.
Yeah, no, Voigt's gonna. You got to trade Voigt somewhere and thank God it's in their control. Like you got to trade him somewhere in the NL because I could already see you trade Voigt or like I don't know, it just comes back to bite us in the ALDS against the freaking I don't know the A's, some shit like that. So like, yeah, but I think Voigt's gonna get dealt. That's one of those things that would really shock me if Voigt wasn't dealt. Because I mean, if you're bringing in, because the thing is, and can I touch on the infield really quick if you don't mind?
Yeah, man.
So with Voigt, you're getting a first baseman in probably Olson or Rizzo. I feel like we kind of know that by now, one of the two. Voigt is definitely going to get traded. I feel like that's kind of been confirmed since this past like trade deadline. Like, not that there was drama that went on, but it just kind of seemed clear. Voigt was not the Yankees starting first baseman anymore. I think like why they went out and got Rizzo too was not just because Voigt wasn't healthy. Like I think the defense played a big part of it. Voigt is not good defensively. Anyways, as for the infield, like as a whole, they said that DJ LeMahieu, they wouldn't have him play first. That's why I think we're gonna get a first baseman in Olson and who's the other person? Or Rizzo. So DJ's gonna have to play third. If Gleyber Torres is not gonna be the shortstop, he's playing second. So I worded that so weird. So what I'm saying is DJ's gonna have to play third because he's not playing first. We're getting a shortstop. Gleyber Torres is playing second. So where does that leave Gio Urshela?
Yep.
And to me, what I say to do is this: make Gio Urshela your super utility guy. Kind of the same way I talked about with Nestor. Make it so Gio Urshela is one injury away from being your starting guy. To me, that's a great. It's an insurance policy almost. Because if you can get value for Gio, all right, great, pull the trigger. But if not, going into the season with him not starting but being a super utility guy, which you can kind of give him the 2019, early DJ treatment, where like, all right, you don't have an official position, but whoever's getting the day off in the infield that day, you're starting. I mean, there could be a world where there's no injuries in the infield and Gio Urshela as a backup ends up playing like 110, 115 games. So I just think that would be a good idea to do that instead of trading Gio. Because I like Gio. I think he's still really valuable to this team. And, I am a big believer in clubhouse chemistry, and I think he's a big part of that.
Yeah, and that's where I was trying to pivot over to like more guys, because I think having some guys that are gamers and grinders, we lost a bunch of them. Like not sexy, like Odor wasn't a sexy name, but he was a great teammate, right? Tyler Wade, a hustler. Like these guys brought a hustle to the game. Andrew Velasquez. We had Greg Allen here. These guys, when the Yankees won their 13-game stretch, all those guys were big parts of it.
They were, yeah.
And they brought this hustle and this energy to the game that's gone now. And the Yankees don't have the speed and versatility either. So having to bring some of that in this offseason is an important factor too. But like when the Yankees are at their best, they have grinders, man, right? Gamers.
Yeah.
Like Cole is an absolute gamer. To me, he just breathes fire. So, and you
Cole,
can when he's on the mound, like when he's boom, dude, get off the mound right now. I'm gonna kill you. That was
so awesome.
Yeah, that's the type of guy I want leading the rotation. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not really worried about him. He's hurt. He's going to be fine. Like I'm not worried about Garrett Cole.
I'm not either.
Like that to surround the team. Like I think Stanton is a leader too. He's more of a quiet leader, but he stood up for his teammates last year against the Mets. And I like guys.
That was so cool.
Yeah. And you're gonna fight Stanton. I'm gonna say good luck.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love. And on the topic of Stanton, real quick, I mean, like, has anybody ever handled New York better? I mean, like, this guy, after everything he's been dealt, I mean, he's received treatment like close to A-Rod before the steroid stuff,
Yeah.
and he handled it so well. Like, I don't remember one thing where he said something bad to the media or where, he went at somebody on social media. He's only ever owned up to everything he's done. And when he's on the field, like, he's been great for us. And his postseason stats are historic. He's been great. He's been great.
Money in the postseason.
Yeah.
Absolute money. I love watching Stanton, man. Love it.
I know.
As much as I wanted Bryce Harper, I'm not disappointed they got Giancarlo Stanton at all.
Yeah, the only reason I would be disappointed is because of Bryce Harper. Like, that's it. Like, I'm really glad they got Stanton, but like Harper,
he's a gamer too.
Yeah, they're interchangeable to me almost. And the fact that Harper's a lefty in a swing for Yankee Stadium, I would lean Harper, but I don't even want to say that because like I love Stanton so much, and he's been great. Like, that doesn't mean he's not been great for us. He's been awesome.
One thing that would be better is having both of them here. So
yeah, no, honestly, and they should be able to both be here. It's the freaking Yankees.
But like,
also, then we can't forget Judge in the lead. I do think he's a big leader of this team. I mean, like, and this isn't me just being some big biased Judge fan, but like everybody in the clubhouse, like they mentioned how like Judge is kind of the unofficial captain, and like he's the guy that holds the meetings in the room. He holds people accountable. I mean, remember Gleyber Torres last year, for example? Like, I forget what the situation was. Was he like not running first base or something like that? I think that's what it was. He wasn't running first base. First guy that pulls him over and talks to him, it's Judge. So, I mean, like, I think the leadership kind of is there. I think it's more so like maybe what they need is like, I feel like he was just kind of a little too stiff in there maybe last year. Like, kind of similar to how like they talk about 2008. I know it was two very different teams, but like regardless if it's like a funny guy or enthusiastic guy, something, even Correa being a villain, they just need some sort of life injected in there, Yeah. And I think Correa, like that's where Correa really would excite me. Just like he brings that little like kind of what A-Rod brought in a way, which it's not necessarily good, but it's interesting. It's like that villainy and that like it would make the Yankees the villain again and make them like the evil empire, which that excites me.
Exactly. And I feel like they've turned into the Bronx Country Club. I want to get back to the Bronx Zoo a little bit. Bringing in Correa, who's almost universally hated, would help accomplish that feat. Plus, he has a winning pedigree already. And he was, and personally, like, when I think of the Astros cheating scandal, I'm thinking mostly Bregman and Altuve because those are the ones that are the biggest culprits. Correa wasn't really mentioned much, but it's clear that the Yankees are past this anyway, having brought on Carlos Beltran the other day to work at Yes Time.
Yeah.
They're behind this, okay?
I think they are.
Yeah. Would I be surprised if they made a big move and brought in Correa to counter maybe some of the things the Mets have done? I would not be surprised. But at the end of the day, too, like you brought Judge up, I think they need to make their best extension offer now once the lockout's over. And if he rejects it, they got to trade him. And I would hate to say it, but that's the only way I would do it because that's the only time they can extract value back for him. Because if they give him a big – and obviously the offer has to be substantial. It can't be some lowball that he's going to say no to.
Yeah.
But, and I'm just waiting for the day that he signs with Scott Boras. And
I mean, if you were to do it, he probably would do it pretty soon. Like, he may have done it by now. I mean, listen, this is probably the thing I disagree with you on most. There's no chance for me. I would trade Judge. I mean –
that's the only scenario I would trade him. If he says
I mean, you kind of like, I guess, said what I was about to say with like the whole contract. Like, if Judge and the Yankees don't come to a deal, I just think it's the Yankees didn't offer Judge a good deal. Like, I think that's really what it comes down to. And I mean, if I'm the Yankees or if I'm a fan of the Yankees, which I am, seeing the Yankees trade like one of their best talents they've had since, I guess you could say, Derek Jeter, but I'll be honest, like in terms of Judge's peak, he's better than Derek Jeter. Trading Judge, a guy who's, like I just said, performed really good on the field and not only just represented as great off the field, he really is like, he's the face of the franchise. And not just, New York's all about marketability. Like, trading Aaron Judge, like, would, I feel like, just be bad for the team, bad for the fans, but it's bad for like business overall. So I just don't think that would be what they would do. But I will say this, as for the Judge extension, and I still hate Correa's guts, by the way. Like, I despise him. And until he's a Yankee, like, I will despise him. But once he's a Yankee, then it's fine. But if you're to sign Correa long-term, I feel like, one, they're absolutely going to check with Judge first. I mean, they checked with Judge on Stan, and not that they're necessarily asking him because he was just like a rookie at the time, but like kind of just running it by and make sure it's cool. But with Correa, I think they'll especially do that. But if you do that, I feel like you can't sign Correa long-term without signing Judge long-term, or at least giving him a legitimate offer.
And they have the capacity to do both. They're swimming in profits.
Oh, no, they can do both is what I'm saying. But I feel like you can't like just sign Correa and then like not sign Judge. Even like a timing thing. I feel like you should like like if you're going to sign Correa, all right, have both Judge and Correa done by like this year then, you know?
I mean, the week after the lockout ends.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say before. Something I'm really excited about is like once like, we don't know when the lockout's going to end, but once it does end, then it's going to be like, bam, like flurry of moves, all this stuff going on. Like that's going to be fun. That I'm like, the content we'll be make then, bro. We'll have to do another one of these, man.
Yeah. We're going to be putting out breaking news like 10 times a day. It's just, it's going to be mass hysteria. People's hair is going to be on fire. But I think that our logic with the Yankees, I'm like, Cashman, you have to act because people like Steve Cohen's going to act immediately. Okay.
Yeah.
These other guys are going to act immediately. So if you don't want to miss out on some of the good stuff, you better pounce, dude. Like, I hope
that's why I hope he's not too patient. I'm not saying he should like bid against himself like he did with Cole, but like I feel like the Yankees and with trades too have just been a little too patient. I feel like over the years, like if you want somebody, go out and get them.
Yeah, and you have the guys, you have the money. The only thing, there's nothing more profitable to me than winning the World Series in New York.
Yeah,
people make money hand over foot more so than they do now. So if you get Correa, you get whoever, Olson, like you get these guys and you win a World Series or a couple, there's going to be it's more than they're going to get returned on 10 times.
No, it'd be insane. And like, that's the ideal scenario. They win a World Series, but even just from like a standpoint of, all right, you're in the business of making money, like sign Correa and Olson just to put more people in the seats. I mean, I know COVID was a factor, but like, I'm sure you saw it too. I mean, the stadium wasn't exactly packed last year. I mean, there were times, like the late summer started to get there, but like, it wasn't as like we've seen Yankee Stadium. So I'm just saying, like, if you want to like put more of an appeal to have fans at the ballpark, which earns you obviously a lot of money, like you gotta, and this is what I was gonna say before, the point I forgot to mention. As for like Seiya Suzuki, John Boy makes a good point, and I think it's pretty valid that the Yankees quite often, almost all the time, have a Japanese presence. This year and last year, the first times like they, good while they hadn't had a Japanese presence. That's obviously a big thing money wise too. They get a whole nother market. So like, I know they're interested in Suzuki. This is totally off topic. We weren't talking about this, but that's something I could see happening.
I would not be offended at all if they brought Suzuki in.
Yeah,
I think he would be great here.
If they were willing to put they probably would. I guess I'm not sure where he would play. I guess, but you could always just put Hicks on the bench and then start Gallo in center. Sorry, I do this all the time. I get on these.
No, you could do that, and having Wall is not a bad thing. And again, keep in mind, like Gallo's got 1 year left.
Yeah.
There's Tyon. So bringing in these guys would be a good idea now because no guarantee Gallo's going to be back in 2023.
I don't think he will.
No, and if he plays well, you could trade him at the deadline and get value for him, right?
I think if he plays well, that's great. I think it's no matter – like if he doesn't perform well, all right, he can't play here. We just don't re-sign him. Or if he plays well, I mean, Joey Gallo is – we're talking like if Joey Gallo puts up like 3/4 of the offense he's capable of with the defense that he has, I mean, he's going to be like a 5 or 6 WAR player. So, I mean, like he's going to make a lot of money. Like there's a chance Joey Gallo has a really good year. I'm not even kidding. He can get $200 million after this year. I mean that. So, like if he has a really good year, I don't see it.
Yeah.
And him coming back. And also, like, I guess that's my whole point. I guess our outfield's pretty crowded too, but
he's young too, Gal. He's 27.
Yeah.
So if he's on fire, and you got a team, the Padres, who feel like they're one piece away from the World Series, they don't pay for the guy. They wanted him.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, I only see them doing that maybe as like I don't want to say a corresponding move, but if they have like if there's a deadline and they have like something else, I mean, there's been talk they might trade him this offseason. I don't see that happening. But if they were to trade him at the deadline, it might be like, say they got another trade coming in, like, all right, we're gonna get this left fielder or outfielder, we'll trade Gallo too. Which, by the way, Joey Gallo, he's technically my cousin.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I swear to God. Oh, from what I've been told, and the story, I didn't just find this out this year when he became a Yankee, I promise. I was 15. I was working my old job called White Oak Market. My cousin comes in, and I don't know what we were talking about, but we were just talking about baseball. She knows I like baseball, and she tells me about this outfielder on the Rangers, Joey Gallo. And I was like, oh, I know Joey Gallo. I've heard of him. At the time, he was like an upcoming prospect. He was really good like the year before in college or whatever. Just got drafted. He's like, yeah, like that's actually that's our cousin. And I totally forgot about it. Because even at the time, it's like, all right, that's cool. It's not by blood. It's just like by some random eighth cousin or whatever. And then this past year, once he gets traded to the Yankees, she hits me up again, my cousin. She's like, reminder, he's your cousin. Joey Gallo's your cousin. So I always just hold that. It's like, yo, my cousin.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. Not actually, but yeah, not actually cool. He is my cousin. I didn't mean to say that. But.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. God.
Yeah.
Well, none of this stuff, obviously none of this stuff's going to happen if the CBA isn't agreed upon, obviously. So, or until it's agreed upon. So, like, that transition means like if you could implement 3 things in the CBA that you could just executive order these things.
Yeah.
I don't need no votes. I'm going to implement these 3 things because I think they're best for the game. What would they be? I want to see if they're similar to mine.
Yeah, so like one's right off the cuff. I mean, kind of what I was saying before, like the salary floor 100% is something I would put in.
That's
The
fine.
draft picks, like you should not be able to have back-to-back top 3 draft picks. I think that I would be really firm on. And I mean, to give something for the players, and I something I really do, I think the contractual control is just ridiculous. I mean, like if you add up the 6 years, you can have up to 12 years of contractual control on a player. 6 years in the minors, 6 years in the majors. Like that's, and you know what's a good example of that? Kyle Higashioka. I mean, the dude's been in the major leagues for like 2 years, and he's going to be like, what, 30-2 next year or something like that? Like, because he was in the minors forever, and then he comes up and like, well, it starts over. You can spend 6 years in the minors, or you come up to the big leagues, or you're slave for 6 years again. So like that, I think is pretty ridiculous. So I mean, like, you know, they're talking about like, what is it? Like if you have like a certain WAR through your first 2 years, then you become eligible for like whatever arbitration. So like whatever it is, I think reduce it by a year. Maybe not even on both ends, but on the major league end, like make it 5 years of major league control instead of 6. Because like even a guy like Judge, we were talking. I mean, like we're talking like that could be a difference of $100 million for Judge.
Yeah.
I mean, like the perception of like a 29-year-old going to be 30 going to free agency compared to a 30-year-old going to be 31. Like that, like just from the way the team sees it, that could be $100 million difference in Judge's pocket. So like that's the main, and I'm not completely like, what's what I want to say? I don't completely align with the players. Like I think they're handling negotiations. I mean, I'm just getting the CBA talking now, but they're handling negotiations, I think, terrible. I mean, like they're already giving in a little bit, which is dumb. You shouldn't be giving in when owners aren't giving in, which are really not at all. You shouldn't be giving in until like at least 2 weeks from now. So if they want to get their side, I think they're doing a terrible job. With that, I don't really care about. But yeah, no, I mean, like I think the owners have a point on some things. I think the players are kind of ridiculous on some things, but like the main thing I definitely do side with the players on is like make it 5 years instead of 6.
Get them to free agency sooner. I'm a fan of getting these young kids paid a little bit more sooner or whatnot. Because at the end of the day, I don't go to a game and look for Rob Manfred.
Yeah, for real.
Where's Manfred? I don't,
Yeah,
I'm not
got a
looking,
Manfred jersey.
Yeah, I'm not looking for Scott Boras. I'm looking for the players. Like,
Yeah.
we go to the games to watch the players, right? So pay the young guys. Get them to free agency sooner if you can. So, and then that kind of leads me to like you said, the floor. Like I know they mentioned $100 million floor right off the bat, and the highest payroll is around, or the lowest is around 40 or 50. So personally, I think if you could do it where it increases by 10 million per year until it gets to $100 million, make it a gradual transition to 100 for the teams.
Okay.
That would make it, I think, more feasible instead of crippling teams.
Yeah.
But and with that also, the revenue sharing thing is one thing I would change. I don't like the fact that teams like the Yankees have to give a bunch of their profits to small market teams, and those small market teams are not required to invest it in payroll and players. Make it mandatory, because first of all, that would get them to that salary floor easier instead of pocketing the money, right? And make it more competitive product, because teams like the Orioles and the Rays who are intentionally tanking, they're clearly not taking advantage of payroll money given to them by the Yankees and big teams like the Mets and the Dodgers, where it kind of creates this whatever you want to call it, inequality or inequity in these baseball finance, which creates some of these problems that they constantly have.
Yeah. So is this what you're saying? I think I really agree with that you're saying, but like, I think that's a pretty good idea. So like, and this is kind of what I was thinking, like if they could literally make it so like, okay, the salary floor isn't mandatory, kind of like how like the threshold isn't, it's not a hard cap or a hard floor. But if you don't have at least 100 mil, then all right, you don't benefit at all from the revenue sharing that year. Which I mean, that's kind of the same as the way with like, the tax threshold is, it's not a salary cap, but like the penalties can be so strict. It essentially is. That right there, if you make that like a consequence of not reaching salary floor, no chance the Rays don't. And I'm with you on the whole gradual plan. But something that bothers me a lot too is that like, if you're owning a Major League Baseball team, like, bro, you should be pretty rich. Like, don't get into this if you don't like have money to spend on. Like, that's why I appreciate Steve Cohen so much. Like, the dude just being a rich fan, buys a team, and he does what he's supposed to do. Spend hella money on players. Like, I can't imagine like, whoever I keep dissing at the Rays. That's just who's closest to my the closest example I have. Like the Rays, like what good is it owning a team if you're not even investing into the team? Like, and you're not even that, like you're trading away assets for no reason. Like it's just, I don't understand like the mindset of that, and yeah. And the problem with that is that they make it able to happen when, they're able to get away with it because there is no floor. You know, like they make it. That's the problem with baseball. They make it way too easy to not want to be good.
Exactly, and that's why I'm with the floor. But I think a gradual path to the floor is probably going to make it easier for both sides.
Yeah, that's you being the mature, smart opinion. I'm just like, do it.
Well, I think both sides make sense. Your side makes sense, my side makes sense. But it's just, I hate.
You're right.
Because if I'm the Yankees, I don't want to give $100 million of my profits to teams that are just going to pocket it.
Yeah,
I'd rather spend it on my players.
Absolutely.
More guys here, right? That's what I would do. Which leads me to my third and most controversial thing would be a team opt-out.
Team opt-out.
Well, if a team signs a guy to a 10-year contract and he's playing like shit for 5 years, a team should be able to opt out halfway through the contract. Now, the caveat is the player will still get paid, okay? But it would not count towards the team's payroll. So like Jacoby Ellsbury, he was hurt for the last, 3 or 4 years, but it still counted towards the Yankees team payroll.
So what you're saying is you release him, the Yankees, or like the Yankees are still paying him, but it doesn't hit against the tax?
It doesn't hit against the tax or the payroll. So that if he's paying $25 million a year, that $25 million comes down off the thing, and it gives the Yankees $25 million spent.
That is, I have nothing else to say, but I agree. That's a really smart idea. At first, I was bad a bit like I don't really see eye to eye with that. Like I don't see how it makes sense, but that's smart. Well, I like that a lot.
The players' union would probably want me eaten by pit bulls if a team's just going to opt out, the player's not going to get paid. Like it would never.
I was going to say the players' union would never allow that, but no. But this, like,
if players opt outs, teams should have them too.
Yeah, and like that would have benefited the Yankees so much. I mean, like, yeah, with Ellsbury, with A-Rod in 17, you know, so like
Ellsbury, get out of here and free up that $22 million.
That's a really smart idea, man. That really is. I like that.
To me, I think it could be something that actually could be agreed upon at some point.
I think so too, because the owners, like, it doesn't hurt them at all because you don't have to use it if you don't want to, and two, like the players, doesn't hurt them either. You're still getting paid. If anything, it helps the players because that gives them more room to spend money. Like now, if Ellsbury's 21 mil wasn't hitting against the tax, you know, that's 20 mil we could put towards somebody else. So yeah, that's a great idea, bro.
Go to another team and say, "Oh, I've always wanted to be in Cincinnati. I've always wanted to Milwaukee or whatever." So whatever the hell you want to say, but they do that, and it also frees up the team's finances too.
Yeah,
because that's where I think the players have a way big advantage over the teams. That the player opt out, and like Cole has an opt out after 2024. And if the Yankees don't surround him with guys, don't be surprised if he exercises it.
I would be shocked, but I hear you. I remember who was the big one I remember? I remember everybody was talking about David Price. Remember that a few years ago? It was like, does he hate Boston? Will he opt out? But yeah, no, I mean, opt-outs are pretty like, I mean, sometimes they're just like such a no-brainer. Like when Stanton a couple years ago, like obviously he wasn't going to opt out, but like sometimes like I don't know, like that's one of the more interesting parts of a contract. Like that can just totally change. Like it can change. What I'm saying, it can change it like the landscape of a team's future. Like, just imagine the Yankees never re-signed A-Rod after he opted out in 2007. Dramatically different. Like we could have one less World Series, or we could maybe have two more. I don't know. I
remember this too with the opt-out. They had a trade lined up with the Angels to send A-Rod to the Angels for Chone Figgins and a bunch of these guys who were really good at the time. And Hank Steinbrenner vetoed Brian Cashman. They were all going to trade him. Before he opt out and all this stuff. And then they announced the stupid opt out during the World Series between Boston and Colorado, Scott Boras. But they had a trade lined up, and Hank overruled Cashman. They could have moved him for all players.
Is this before he signed the big deal? Like before the opt out?
He opted out and signed the 275. Yeah.
Yeah, I say big deal like the other one wasn't fucking 250.
Sorry. My God, all right, man.
Yeah. And I'm a huge A-Rod fan. I love A-Rod. He's actually the reason I got into baseball, but like
baseball nerd, you know, he knows a lot about baseball now.
Oh no, and that's something like I always really I remember. I think the first story I heard about A-Rod was that like he went to like Jeter's house back when they were boys, like in the 90s or whatever, and like, you know, they get back. I think they were playing each other, Mariners at the Yankees, and like he comes back to Jeter's house to stay over, and like he goes to watch like the West Coast games or whatever, and he just like, yo, Jeter, where's the baseball package? He's like, I don't have that. Why would I have the baseball package? He's like, you don't watch the games? Jeter's like, no. But it's just so funny. I like how A-Rod, like, he's such a savant. Like that's something I feel like nobody can ever, no matter how corny you think he is, you know, no matter how much you want to call him a junkie, A-Rod loves baseball. And that the A-Rod story to me, I mean, like, I'm not sure if you watch Star Wars or not, but to me, I equate Alex Rodriguez to Anakin Skywalker. It's a tragedy. Like it's very unfortunate and it's very sad. When I see A-Rod, like I look back at his 90s highlights, and I know some people say he's been taking roids since high school. I don't necessarily believe that, but it's just like he didn't need him. If anybody didn't need him, it was A-Rod. Like he probably could have been more talented If not, I mean, like, there's a chance, like, or he could have had a better career. Like, if he doesn't get suspended in 2014, like, I truly think A-Rod would have been just as good throughout his career if he didn't take roids.
I agree.
You know, he probably lost home runs because he lost games because of steroids, you know?
Yeah.
So it's sad.
But guess who the one guy Carlos Correa went to talk about transitioning from shortstop to third? He called A-Rod.
Really? Makes sense.
Talk about the transition, because at some point, if he came here, he might want to move to third for a Volpe or whatever. So he already called A-Rod. He was the one guy he called. Because he came here, moved to third when he came here.
Yeah, no, I know. That's something he doesn't get enough credit for. I love that. A-Rod wanted to win so bad. And A-Rod did a lot of things wrong, don't get me wrong. But, like, he wanted to win so bad. And, like, he wanted to be a Yankee so bad. He moved over. And he played third base well. He really played it well when he probably should have been playing short. And some people be like, get mad at the Yankees. Like, my generation, like, I'm 21. A lot of kids my age think the Yankees were, like, dumb for, like, not putting A-Rod at short in 2004 and having Jeter at third. No way you're freaking doing that. Like, get out of here with that. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. As if the Yankees would not even want to get it. It's dumb. But yeah, no, I mean, like, I just think A-Rod, like he's just fascinating. Like, I think he really is. Like, his whole story, like, whatever he was doing, I was always just, like, wanted to see, like, what was going on. Like, his whole life kind of feels like a movie that didn't always end well.
Yeah, I mean, he's made some bonehead mistakes, but he's got a lot baseball mind, man.
He is. And something that frustrates me too is you know, he's terrible on ESPN. I admit that. I think the K show will like him with K will be really good. But people a lot of times don't realize that A-Rod is a much different guy on Fox. When he's on Fox A-Rod versus ESPN A-Rod, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because he's around Big Papi or Pedro, but he seems so much more natural. And that's where A-Rod, that's what, like, the line of demarcation is with A-Rod, whether he's likable or not, is how, like, natural or how, like, forced he is. And that's why I'm kind of excited about the K-Rod show on ESPN, because anytime I've seen A-Rod and K talk, whether it's him interviewing him as a player or after he retired coming on the Michael K show, A-Rod always seems very down to earth. I don't know if it's something to do with, like, how much he respects K or just, I don't know, but he never seems to have that corny A-Rod voice that he has on ESPN. He just talks like a normal dude, and that's where you really get the goodness of A-Rod.
Yeah, and this is where K is good too. He's really good at making people feel at home, making people feel comfortable. Like,
I love K.
Compliment to A-Rod, so I like Michael K. And
K's the man. He's really my two idols is K and A-Rod. I know A-Rod's probably a bad idol to have, but
I mean,
not anymore. I mean, more so when I was growing up, but
he's a hell of a player, man. I loved watching A-Rod play.
Yeah.
As much as I loved watching Roger Clemens play. I know
I wish
I'm gonna get into the hall, but unfortunately,
I'm sorry. That's Clemens honestly bothers me almost more than Bonds. Because didn't Clemens go to, like, Cordova and didn't he technically win? Like, I know we know Clemens used, but like do we know Clemens used? Like, is it known? No. You would know better than it's not.
So in Bonds either. The only one that had a failed test attached to the name was David Ortiz in 2003.
Yeah, Bonds. So it's Bonds is obvious, and I guess Clemens is too because of sustained success. But, like, I don't know. I'm not like and some people disagree with this. I'm big on the whole, like, if you're a Hall of Famer without steroids, to me that's good enough. I do factor in, like, the moral side of it too. That's why I'm sorry for going on a tangent here about this, but, like, Bonds and Clemens, I would put in. Ortiz, I would put in. A-Rod, I probably wouldn't put in. And that's coming from the biggest A-Rod fan in the world. And for me, it comes down to this. It's like, you know, in 2004, that's when penalties were put in place. And that's kind of like if you were caught afterwards, like, same with Manny Ramirez. I probably wouldn't put Manny Ramirez into the Hall of Fame because, you know, he was banged in 2011 after there was already, like, you knew what you were doing was wrong. There were penalties put in place. If A-Rod was in the same situation Ortiz was, which he could have been, if A-Rod never did the second time around, the biogenesis in 2014 or 2014 when he got suspended, if he never did that, I would say A-Rod's probably going to be, he probably gets voted in with Ortiz, but he did it again. So, like, I don't know. I feel like anybody before 2004, like, that did steroids, that's good without steroids, should be a Hall of Famer. But, like, afterwards, I don't know. It's kind of iffy. Like, Cano, I don't think Cano's a Hall of Famer.
Neither do I.
But if he did what he did 20 years ago, I'd say yes.
That makes sense. I agree. And like, Clemens was a huge dude when he came in. He was a huge dude when he left. When Barry Bonds started, he looked like me. When he left, he looked like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Yeah.
A huge physical transformation. Like, McGuire was a Hulk coming in. He was a Hulk going out.
Yeah.
I actually met Clarence. I met Roger Clemens at a show in the urinals. Okay.
Really?
He stood next to me. He was peeing right next to me.
You made conversation, or was it too?
I looked up like this. Said, "Holy shit, it's Roger Clemens."
Roger Clemens.
So I waited until he was finished peeing, then I went upstairs and introduced myself to him.
Yeah. How was he? I've heard he's actually pretty nice.
Yeah, he's a real friendly guy. Real
Yeah, I know
cool.
Bonds was like, a D word to the media, whatever. I will say Bonds' story about like at least why they think he took steroids. It is kind of understanding. Like, the whole thing about how like, he was the best player in baseball. And then like he saw these guys who were worse than him in Sosa and McGuire, like making, getting all these records and all these homers. He's like, what the F, bro? Like, I'm better than these guys. All right, I'll take the juice too. And then, so like that to me, it almost kind of makes sense. But like, as for the way I see, like, it's kind of similar with like, when people ask me, is Garrett Cole a cheater? And I always said no in regards to the spider tack, because I know it's all totally different things, but it's the same logic with if you use spider tack in 2021 or even before that, before June 13th and MLB started cracking down on that, to me, it's the same as if you use steroids in the 90s and the early 2000s. You were just part of the crowd. You're a part of the majority. But if after there were like strict, and I know like steroids are always kind of like outlawed or you weren't supposed to do them, but like we know when the actual point, like in 2004, that's when they were like, from then on, they're like, you can't do this. You do this, you're getting suspended. And that's what MLB did with the whole, like the glove check. It's kind of the same thing. So like, I don't know. That's just kind of like how my mind works with that
No,
stuff.
I mean, spider tech to me is the pitching version of pine tar. Like it gives,
Yeah, and I have no problem with. I mean, not that I have no problem with it, but like they absolutely have to have some sort of like a grip that's better than freaking rosin. I mean, rosin does not, especially in the cold. Like imagine pitching an April game in the Bronx or Garrett Cole. What the hell does rosin do? I don't even know why they have it on the mound almost in April.
I don't see
like,
the point of it either.
yeah.
Like, and this, it's not like making the ball like move 8 feet to the, like, it's not doing that. It's just giving them a better grip on the ball. Just like pine tar, like helps them to a degree as well. But neither one of them is obscene cheating.
Yeah, they just got to do something like how like Japan does, where they I know they rub the baseballs here, but I think Japan has like a better one where they like really rub it up and it's like it actually has some sort of like a stick to it.
Yeah.
Like here in the U.S., it's just like mud. It's not even really for grip or like it's not a good grip.
I mean, and I'm not of the opinion that there were not some juiced balls last year, in certain markets or whatever to help the offense too over even the last couple.
Oh, that 100%. Are you talking about like the actual ball itself being juiced?
So
I think so.
How's the difference between that and spider tack? Like it's just
Oh, I mean, I think that's worse. That is to me like that's like a scandal almost to me. Like the fact that Major League, it's the fact that they didn't like the teams didn't know. Like that just sounds. I mean, it's already bad the fact they're using different baseballs when you're a professional sports organization. But like the fact that the teams didn't know, and it's just like, and you could tell, bro. I mean, like remember watching like the Field of Dreams games, the Subway Series of the 9/11 anniversary. Like it was so like I remember at the time, us as fans were kind of like we were suspecting it before it was even reported.
Yeah, so. I call it BAS, the Brady Anderson syndrome. It's like going from 8 home runs to 50. That could be juicing or it could be a juiced ball. Like it helps so many average players really goose up their stats, but. Fine. But if you're gonna crack down,
I would like to have it back. You just got to keep it all the same. Like it's got to be it's got to be a level playing field. Well, and I'm saying like I think it if I remember correctly, actually no, maybe not. I was gonna say it benefited the Yankees, but I guess in hindsight it kind of didn't. Or maybe it did. But it did in 2019 at least. Like in 2019, like that was a really fun year. That was like prime juice ball era. At least that's the way I see it. Like I like having all that offense. It's better at least than like offense this year. Like not just the Yankees, was kind of down overall this year.
Yeah. But I'll tell you this. I remember right after Spider Tack was they cracked down on it. I know Cole had a rough game or two, but then 2 games after that, he threw that game against the Houston Astros. Like his FU to the world moment. That was. You want to take? I don't care. Look what I'm going to do anyway. That was
everything about that was so awesome. I remember his I remember his I think Marley Rivera asked him a question afterwards or whatever, and his answer was so awesome. You might remember it was like she asked him, she was just like, Garrett, and she like repeated his line, 9 innings, 2 hits, 12 strike, whatever. Did this prove to you how good, or was this to prove to the world how good a pitcher you are? And he goes, Marley, go to my baseball reference page, take a look at my stats. Thank you. And it was just so cool. It's kind of just telling me like no, like I am a good pitcher. Like there shouldn't be any doubt. And it was so dope. And like you said, like him, like what Boone came out or whatever, and he was just like, no, that was like doing the Mike Messina thing. That was sick.
Yeah, Corey. This was like, dude, you don't leave. I'm gonna kill you. And get off the mound. This is my mound. Like that was the day. Like,
and it's so natural too. Like, and that's why part of why I was so excited. He's a good old. He's a bulldog. Yeah. Like he's what, and that's the thing where I always felt like Severino kind of lacked, and not really to the fault of his own. It was more so I feel like just inexperience in a sense. But like when Severino was pitching for us, I didn't feel the same way I felt about, say, with CC in like 2009 to 2011 to 2012. Like that kind of, like when CC was in his prime, like it just felt like, all right, this guy's going to give us everything he has today. Not that Severino won it. That's not what I mean, but just he's going to go out there and give us a gutsy performance. And chances are we're going to win today. If we don't win with CC on the mound, that's a disappointment. That's how it feels with Cole. And I feel like it's going to keep feeling that way. Like maybe Cole's not going to be like, maybe he was assisted a little bit by Spider Tack, maybe a little bit, but still afterwards, if you break down his stats from the MLB crackdown, which was June 13th, until he hurt his hamstring in September, his ERA, I'm pretty sure, was like a 3.2 or something like that, which is still that's ace worthy. That's ace worthy. And he threw multiple gems without it. Like we just said, the Astros won, the Angels game. Remember the Angels game? What was it, 15 Ks? So no, I'm not worried about. There's no reason to be worried about Cole.
No, I just want to co-ace with him. That's it.
Yeah.
Give him a 2 or 1B. I'm a happy camper, and he'll be a happy camper too. So,
oh, for sure.
And just beef up the rotation. That way he's not having to shoulder the load as much as he did over the last 2 seasons. Because I think it does take its toll at some point. Like if the bullpen has to shoulder the load for the rotation, at some point there's going to be a breakdown. And the same with Cole, like I surrounding him with a little bit more protective case. For
sure.
Just to support him.
No, absolutely.
So, and at this point, if you're going to spend on the right guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what the question is going to be. I really think they're going to spend. I really do. It's just a matter of what are they going to spend on? Yeah. Like, are they going to do on the right people? Yeah.
I mean, I don't want them to be selling us, filet mignon and then delivering us rump roast. Like, no.
No good.
No, just get the right guys. Get the Yankees. Get the right guys here. It'll work itself out, especially if you look at the way things are trending. But the bottom line is these other teams are getting better. Rays, the Blue Jays, the Reds. They're not going to get any less athletic. They're young, they're dynamic, and they're going to have to put themselves in position to be able to compete with these guys.
Yeah, and they have the opportunity to. Like they have a team that is set up to be once they make the right moves, it can be very good. And I'm like, that's part of why I'm so excited this year is like the matchups this year and like the race. Like it's going to be a 4-team race most likely, which is going to be really awesome. Like this, like knock on wood that this all gets resolved with the lockout, but like. This could be a very fun year for the Yankees. And it's like I said before, it's a huge one. It's the final year of the baby Bombers. Like let's go make something happen. Like let's win the World Series. Like it's not over yet. Like the baby Bombers era, it's still here. We still got one more year. Like, and that's why, like you can't be having Peraza start at shortstop. You got to go all in. And yeah, maybe if you sign Correa, the last 2-3 years look shitty or crappy. Sorry. But it's the same deal with like to me, the Mark Teixeira contract was worth it. AJ Burnett's contract was worth it. He was horrible the years after, but what happened? We won a World Series. Like, and it's the same. That's how I felt about Cole's contract. Like, yeah, maybe year 7, 8, and 9 are crappy, but if we get a World Series out of that, which hopefully we do, then it's all worth it. So, like, spend big.
I want him to win a Cy here, and I want him to win a World Series here.
Yeah, it's such a shame. I really thought he was going to win a Cy Young last year. Not once the year was over, but like he was. If he didn't have that one, I forget who was against that one last bad start in the regular season, he probably had it.
Oh yeah.
I forget. I don't even remember what it was. Was it against Toronto?
I think it was against Toronto.
Yeah, probably. It was the same series. Ray had a bad game too, but yeah,
they both got lit up. Yep, and
I think that's all the hamstring. I really do. Like same like Boston, like, and I still, I've forgiven Cole 100%, but like. I really do attribute his Boston performance in the Walker game to, the hamstring, which still, I mean, he said he was healthy. That's like his fault. But also at the same time, I wouldn't want any other way. Like I want my ace, even though he has a ailing hamstring, to be like, yeah, give me the ball. And that's like we were just talking about. That's who Cole is, which is fine with me. Because, I mean, I know he's going to be healthy next year or this year and be good to go.
Yeah, man. He's my guy, man. But, dude, I want to thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate the time.
Absolutely, bro. This is a blast, dude.
Dude, and let's do it again when things are crazy.
Yeah.
We're gonna get pounded.
No, absolutely, bro. We could do something. That'd be fun. Yeah, like when the moves are all going down, and maybe a little something for opening day too, like a little like Yankee season preview or something.
Do that too. We could do that.
Yeah, I'll post. I can have you on my channel for that or something.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love to be on channel. But dude, thanks so much for coming on. Hey guys, go check out Dan's channel, man. Yankees Avenue, and it's one of the best channels out there. And I'm looking forward to having you on again. And but have a great week, dude. And I'll talk to you soon, brother. Thanks for coming.
Thanks so much, man, for having me on.
Later, brother.